what was this? Like seriously, what was this chapter of One Piece? Now, all right, I've been calling out Boruto, during the past couple of months for being utter bullshit, which it has been. It absolutely has been 100%. I don't think anybody can defend that. So I think it's only fair that I do it for One Piece. Now, I don't think that this chapter was god-awful, but it wasn't good, all right? So, and you should respect me, all right? You should respect me for being honest with my opinion. I really do think that demands respect. You don't have to agree with it or like it necessarily, but you should respect me. Because my opinion will always be the most correct one to have. No. Listen, guys, like, what am I supposed to do, all right? This chapter was it was full on dicking around in the woods. I started reading the chapter, and with each page that I turned, right, with each click, I had one thought inside my head, which was, okay, this is cool, but when are things going to start making sense? They didn't, all right? They just didn't make sense, at least not by the end of this chapter. And it's not like I'm expecting everything to, like, clear up in one fucking chapter, but it's like, when we have a pile of mysteries, all right, just mystery upon mystery upon mystery upon what the fuck, it's kind of like, okay, like, give us something. We got no Big Mom, no Jinbei, no Vince Smokes, and to top it all off, one of the characters that's been keeping his mouth shut about possibly very important things involving the Vince Smokes just straight up leaves in the first section of this chapter. Brook gets on the submarine with Pedro. He's like, fuck this, I know too much about the plot, so I'm gonna go off in this mini quest because it's important for me not to be there to reveal the answers that I know. So then they go into the woods, everything's made out of candy, which has already been established. And it's like a really bad acid trip, which kind of makes sense because I think I've heard people say that if you watch the Disney movie Alice in Wonderland, and you're on some type of drugs, like either LSD or just if you smoke marijuana, then the whole movie becomes this whole like weird psychedelic experience. Like this weird thing happens when you're like, whoa, this is making so much sense. But it's because of the substance. So I wonder if I'm not encouraging people to use drugs or anything, but I wonder if this chapter begins to make sense if you're on drugs. In just this one chapter, all right, you got Sanji, disappearing like he's some type of a Cheshire cat, like in the movie. You got a ugly ass, fat ass giant stuck in the ground asking for apple juice. I'll give him some apple juice. It's gonna be warm though. You got this rabbit version of Puss in Boots coming in on top, like, riding a crane or I don't know what it was, like some type of like a crane or like a stork. And he had a spear. I think he was protecting them from something. I don't know. He was able to cut down some trees, and those trees were fucking annoying. So that was good. And then you have this alligator coming in. And so because I've already established that there are some similarities between Whole Cake Island and its structure in Walt Disney World, if this was a reference to Disney, that's kind of fucked up. I think it's a little bit too soon. But the truth of the matter is that Orlando is infested with gators. I mean, that's a fact. I mean, it's a crocodile, but whatever, you get the point. I really did love like Nami's reaction though to the fact that it's like, oh, it's a crocodile, it's like dressed in clothes, and he was talking to us. And then you have like Carrot and Chopper's expression like, why is that weird? And then Luffy runs into his reflection, so whatever he does, the clone is going to do. So he's kind of blocking his way, and so he stays behind. I remember like the giant that was stuck in the ground kind of reminded me of San Juan Wolf a little bit. Like this entire chapter kind of felt like they were literally following the White Rabbit, like down the rabbit hole, even though the White Rabbit is Carrot. And there's some clocks on the trees that begin going crazy by the end, and we find out that the name of this place is the Seducing Woods. So it's giving me like a very strong like Thriller Bark vibe, like in the beginning of Thriller Bark before they go into the castle. Like there's just a bunch of dicking around. Like there's this part where like Luffy wants to invite this zombie tree to join his crew and stuff. So I kind of get the same type of vibe from this one chapter. And the thing is like that part of Thriller Bark is kind of weak. Like it's pretty. Like, it's fun, don't get me wrong, it's fun and it's humorous, but it's also like, oh, come on, can we just... And that's the thing, like, that was back in the day. That was, like, pre-New World. This is the territory of a Yonko we're talking about. So the fact that they're just kind of doing the same thing in a way, like, it's fun, and it's like, oh, look at this, there's some crazy shit going around. That's the thing that got me. And I thought, like, I think it's a little bit below Oda to have an entire chapter based on this when, like, stuff like Marco versus Blackbeard was skipped, Aokiji versus Akainu was skipped, the Revolutionary Army versus Blackbeard, or Blackbeard showing up at the headquarters, that was also off screen or off panel, and yet we get an entire chapter based on just fucking woods. I mean, just by reading the title of the chapter, which was Adventure in a Mysterious Forest, I was like, oh man, like this better be good. That's what I was thinking. I like seeing Margaret in the cover though, showing the bounty poster to the animals that Luffy trained with. I thought that was cool. And then the thing here is that by the end, like these trees like come to life and shit, and then you have, well, actually a bunch of like desserts and shit comes to life. That's part of Big Mom's devil fruit that's already been established. But what we don't know, however, is what's causing that Sanji like mirror image, or that Sanji, that Sanji like hologram, if you will, and what's causing that Luffy clone. Is that also part of Big Mom's ability? Or is that like a part of the environment? Or is it a side effect of being stuck in the woods for too long? I don't think that's the case, because if that were the case, like Luffy would not have been able to see like Sanji and Pudding in last week's chapter. Like he did mention like, oh, I can see somebody on the coast or whatever, and that's what led them there. And so those reflections, that's kind of iffy. So again, we didn't really get any answers in this chapter. In fact, we just got more questions out of it. And Oda usually tries to hint at what the answer is with cliffhangers by the end, or like that final panel, and you kind of like go like the boom moment of the chapter. And I think as of this week and last week's cliffhangers, I thought were kind of weak. Also, like that character that I thought was a new character in the previous chapter, I guess that was Nami. But the fact that little panel caused so much confusion and speculation to take place within the fandom, I think that's a testament to the fact that Oda perhaps should have been a little bit more clear in the way that he drew Nami, or at least specify, she's wearing this outfit and she has these spears here. And then she actually had time to change into her Hansel and Gretel outfit within the same spread. Speaking of Hansel and Gretel, like the references are there as well. They're following a path through the woods to Big Mom's house, if you will, her castle. And it seems like it's going to be pretty obvious that she wants to eat them. And I think, like, above everything else, the one thing that you can take away from this chapter in terms of important plot stuff is the fact that Pudding, I think this pretty much confirms the fact that Pudding was being dishonest with the Straw Hats when she drew that map. And she said that she was going to be waiting for them at the shore. She wasn't there, so obviously that was dishonest. Now, if memory serves correctly, that there's been a couple of inconveniences throughout the journey. Like, I remember this giant centipede coming out of the sea at one point. Then we had the ants. Well, the sea like froze up at night, and then you had the ants. And now they arrived at this woods, and they're like, there's some crazy shit going on. So either Carrot, Pudding really underestimated the Straw Hats, and she kind of thought that, well, if the centipede doesn't get them, like the ants will get them, and if that doesn't work, then they'll get lost in the woods or something. But again, that kind of just means that she underestimated them entirely. So I don't know what the fuck she was thinking when she was lying to them. So again, this chapter just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I know, like, a way of defending this chapter would be to say, oh, you just got to be patient, and Oda will reveal the answers in due time. But as a weekly chapter, as reading this week to week, and just having this as a solo chapter, it's like, what the fuck? Like, seriously, like, what is this? I finished reading this chapter, and I thought to myself, because a lot of people hated opening 19, like we can. A lot of people hated it. So I finished this chapter, and I'm like, that opening, that new opening, it's not looking too bad right about now. Not looking too bad. The song isn't even that bad. I don't think it's bad. And then another thing that doesn't help this chapter out at all is the fact that there's a break next week. Because again, the cliffhanger wasn't really that shocking. It's just like, just a bunch of fucking trees and candy with faces. Oh my. So again, it just kind of feels like the beginning stages of Thriller Bark. Like, this is like Thriller Bark 2.0, if you will. And I've also drawn like comparisons between like Big Mom's ability and Morga's ability. So yeah, it's kind of like that Thriller Bark vibe. Which means, I mean, if that's the same format, that means that this arc by the ending is going to be epic. But the build-up for it is probably going to be like pretty tedious. I hope I'm wrong. So prove me wrong, please. Please, Oda. prove me wrong. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you did. I appreciate that. Subscribe to my channel and comment down below with your thoughts. Appreciate it, guys. Bye.